Thanks for joining us. This afternoon, we take you live to Parliament, and we know that the committee tasked to consider the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill. That's the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. They began public hearings today, and a number of petitions have been received already. We know that over 100 memos were received by the committee, and they've started hearing from the individuals and the institutions that put forward these proposals for and against the bill. We've been hearing from the Pentecost Church, Amnesty International, the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, among others. They took their turn to advance their argument for or against the bill. Leader and member of the Concerned Ghanaian Citizens, lawyer Akoto Ampao, was the first to present his arguments against the bill, insisting that the passage of the bill will violate fundamental human rights in the Constitution. He further challenged the claim that the activities of homosexuals threaten the survival of human existence. Shortly after that, the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council also argued in favor of the bill. Apostle Ofori Kruger, who spoke on behalf of the council, observed that the bill, if passed into law, will safeguard the Ghanaian family value and urged the committee to recommend the passage of the bill. We'll be hearing from all of them shortly, but let me take you live to Parliament now, where my colleague Kwesi Parker Wilson is with us. The committee just finished day one of the public hearing. Parker, how would you describe it?
Right, so Ebefa, it's been quite interesting today. The committee has gone for just about 40-minute break, and upon their return, we do understand that the Ghana AIDS Commission and the Amnesty International will also take their turn. But as you can see, I have with me Professor Techomenu here. She's been kicking against the passage of the bill, and today, of course, she made her standpoint. She articulated her standpoint clearly to the committee members, and even indicated that the activities of homosexuals, particularly lesbians and gays, does not threaten the human existence or survival of the human existence. She said with me, a quick one. Prof, when you were speaking, you mentioned something that I need some quick clarity on. Yes. You said that lesbians can have children, gays can have children. Many Ghanaians want to know, how is this possible? Because they say, I mean, per the biological nature of human, it is a man and a woman who can have children.
Thank you very much. Yes, so we've had an interesting day, and one of the things that we have tried to get across is that this bill confuses sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual characteristics. Okay, a lesbian is a woman. If she chooses to have children, she can have children. Physically, yes. She can decide that she wants children. She can get inseminated. There are all kinds of ways. Transgender people, some of them are women, they can have children. So I think that this focus on procreation, as if people come into the world just to have children, is incorrect. We have tried to say that it's a choice, what people want to do. And we have also shown that there has been no diminution in the population of Ghana, despite the 276,000 gays and lesbians who live in this country.
276,000?
Yes.
Gays and lesbians live in Ghana?
Yes. So they are not being imported from somewhere. You know, I think in the debate...
These are Ghanaians, I mean.
Yes, they are Ghanaians.
Foreign nationals?
No, they are not foreign nationals. These are statistics from the Ghana AIDS Commission. I'm not importing them, you know. So I think, first of all, that we need an evidential base for many of the things that are being proposed. A lot of the time we're getting analogies from what is happening in the U.S., what is happening before the U.S. Congress. And one of our criticisms of this bill is that there is very little research, Ghanaian research, that tells us. And what little research there is distorts the figures. So the 18.1% of men who have sex with men who are HIV positive is being bandied around the place. When in fact, if you look at the population, if you look at statistics from the Ghana AIDS Commission, you can go and do Ghana fact check. 5.4% of the total HIV prevalent population are gay. And the majority of people who have HIV in Ghana are women. and heterosexual people. So again, we're just being led down the line. There is, I think one of the proponents claimed that 8 out of 10, what led to the fact check, 8 out of 10 HIV positive people were gay or bisexual, and it's simply not true. And when it was put to him, he says, oh, this is a figment of the LGBTI community, when indeed they spoke to, is it Dr. Isiado of the Ghana AIDS Commission. So I think we should have a proper debate and education about some of these things. I think that right now people are just being scared. There's a bogeyman. They are coming for your children. They are doing this.
Talking about coming for your children, I mean, the Church of Pentecost presented about 7 memos, I mean, from the various wing of the church. Children. I mean, they talked about children.
I don't know how the children...
And they say you are a mother, and they expect that, I mean, you should listen to the kids. How do you respond to that?
But did the children read the bill? Has it been written for them? When we look at the facts in this country, okay, when we look at the statistics from the criminal CID on child offenses, the wide majority of it is committed by heterosexual people. So we need to distinguish pedophilia, which is an offense, from the identity of being gay or lesbian. Okay, and by all means, let us protect our children. Let us protect our children from all the broadcasting, from all the adverts, from all the pornographic sites. Okay, but let's not whip it up into some hysteria against gays and lesbians. So we have to be careful. It's not like anybody is saying, let anybody loose. We should enforce our laws. If gays and lesbians commit crimes against children, they should be punished. But we are saying that from what we know, from the data and statistics available, the vast majority of offenders are heterosexual people, some of whom are married.
Right, now finally for me, you presented the argument here. Are you convinced that the committee members were convinced by your argument and that probably, as you wish, this bill will be rejected?
Well, we did not. You see, we presented our arguments based on the Constitution, based on the fact that the lawmaking power is vested in Parliament, but it has to be exercised in conformity with the Constitution. And our reading of the bill and the exposition that we did showed that the bill violates all the human rights clauses in the Constitution. It has its own exaggerated and untested notions of Ghanaian family values. It has taken things from the directive principles of state policy. And as we were reminded, this is not a bill of parliament. This is a private member's bill. So to have 6 people who now go and define for us what are Ghanaian family values and those things, and oblige everybody, parents, teachers, judges, where is this coming from? What is the mischief? What is the mischief? So we have not been convinced, and we do hope. We are encouraged by the posture of the committee. They asked us questions, we responded to the questions, and we believe we've had a fair hearing, and we will be looking forward and monitoring the rest of the hearings. And we are positive that in light of Ghana's constitution, in light of all the Ghana's obligations that it has voluntarily taken, that this bill will not be passed.
That's Professor Tchop-Menu there. She's very confident that the argument advanced by her team would obviously ensure that this bill is rejected when it's before Parliament. Of course, she says that they've had a fair hearing, which of course I can attest to it. Many of them advanced the argument. The committee members asked questions, and of course they were given the opportunity to respond to the questions. MP, Honorable James Agaga is here. Honorable, you have monitored the activities for today, the first half of the day. What are your general impressions there?
Well, I think so far, so good. The committee set its agenda for the day, and the number of speakers, or if you like, authors of memos who were listed to speak have been given the right to speak. Members also had an opportunity to ask all the questions they deemed fit, and responses were given.
Well, you were asked a very interesting question about data and facts as to how activities of homosexuals does not threaten procreation.
Well,
were you satisfied with the answer you got?
Well, I would leave that for the committee's determination. I don't want to preempt anything. For now, we are listening to the presenters of the various memoranda with an open mind. Our duty is to ask all the questions we deem fit in order to assist us arrive at conclusions that are supported by facts, evidence, and the law. The Constitution is supreme, and so we're going to respect, the laws and the evidence that is before us in reaching recommendations for the plenary to consider. So I do not think it's appropriate for me to make, prejudicial comments at this point, whether questions I asked were responded to very well or not. I did ask a question on procreation, and the point I sought to drive home was whether you needed evidence beyond the fact that same-sex, man to man, woman to woman, cannot bring forth another human. And that is what I regard as procreation. Of course, some responses were given, whether the responses were apt or not. A decision would be taken in that regard, and then the bill would be subjected to the constitutional test and appropriate recommendations made.
You've gone for a break for 40 minutes. I'm sure very soon the committee will return. Who is in line to make his argument before the committee?
Yes, I think Professor Bobkin is billed to speak, and some others. Okay. So we're going to be hearing some other presenters like we did in the first segment when we come back from lunch.
But for you, generally, you are enthused about how the event...
Yes, that is how things are supposed to be done. I mean, the procedure that is spelled out in the standing orders and even the Constitution on the work of committees. This is the time for the general public to be heard. They've already submitted memoranda, but they are normally given the opportunity to go through the memoranda once again, and if members have questions to ask in order to clarify a certain key or salient points that members do not understand, the opportunity is given for those questions to be asked. At the end of the day, the committee takes a decision and makes recommendations to the plenary for its consideration. So I must say, so far, the proceedings have gone on well, except that from the beginning, we had challenges with the sitting arrangement. And so I think that tomorrow, something needs to be done about that. This is not a committee room. So members, would have to always turn back and strain themselves in order to talk or make eye contact with the audience in this room. That is not proper. I mean, the world over committee rooms have a special design. The
round table, as Muhammad Yago.
That's right. That's right. So we hope that tomorrow the clerk will take steps to correct this.
Right. So, on the final point, before you go, we know that you've received almost about 150 memos. How many days are you expecting to engage the stakeholders?
So our view is that some of the memos definitely would have to be consolidated. Those that are virtually speaking to the same issues ought to be consolidated. Otherwise, we're going to have people repeat themselves. I mean, what others have already thrown light on, they would come back and repeat the same things because they have submitted a memo. So maybe after today's sitting, the committee would have to re-engage or reconvene and have an in-house meeting to determine whether or not it wouldn't be appropriate to consolidate some of the memos. That's the way to...
So far, you've not said, let's say 2 weeks or 3 weeks to finish with this.
I think that if we manage our time well, we should be able to conclude with the hearings much earlier than the time given us to do this work.
So from here, when you're done with this consultation or engagement, what would be the next line of action? What are the processes that you go through?
Yes. So the committee would meet and go through the bill clause by clause. And if there are proposed amendments by way of deletion or, embellishing the various clauses, taking out the dots, the T's, etc., we'll do that. But if it is the decision of the committee, like some are urging it on us to reject the bill outright, then we wouldn't have to go through all that. But like I said, these are matters that would have to be determined by the committee. Whether or not the bill passes the test would have to be determined by the committee. I'm sure that would be one of the first major decisions we would have to take before we settle down to look at the various clause by clause provisions of the bill.
But then for you, a direct question to you. Are you hopeful this bill would see the light of day, will be passed into law?
Well, as a committee, I've told you that it's not proper for me to do that. We're an 80-member committee. Everybody's vote counts. If there are disagreements, we would subject the matter to the vote in coming out with our recommendations. I don't think at this stage it would be proper for me to preempt the outcome of the committee's work. Inappropriate. So spare me that for now, Parker. We'll get to that. Our decision would be communicated. I mean, it will be taken in the full glare of the whole nation. That is why the sittings are telecast live for all to see.
And for me, I think earlier there was a push for someone to be cited for contempt of parliament. I think it was the pastor who right. What happens to that? I mean, is there something the committee will consider?
Well, I think that the chairman gave a ruling, and so we made progress. I do not think that this is a matter that would want to. In any case, we don't have the power to cite for contempt. If the procedure is that if anybody is minded to press contempt charges, you'd have to appear at the plenary and raise the issue for the speaker to make a referral to the privileges committee. So this is not the forum to determine those matters. But like I said, the chairman did give a ruling, and I thought that largely resolved the matter that was raised in relation to what Professor Prempeh had said.
James Agaga is in World Parliament for Busano constituency. Honorable, thank you very much. Professor Deferred Admission is here. We are told that he would be making his argument before the committee. And MFR, as I mentioned, there has been quite an interesting day here at the committee sitting. The committee has taken just about 40-minute break. We're going to have lunch and return to consider other memos before it. Prof, quickly, what are your expectations? You are yet to meet the committee. What are your expectations quickly?
Well, I think that there's an issue that we believe that we should look at it from different perspectives. And the perspective I am here to share is from the economist perspective, that as a country, this is not LGBTQ agenda is not something we should consider now.
Why shouldn't you consider LGBT agenda now?
It's an expensive lifestyle the state cannot afford. Even the individuals can't afford. And if you look at other countries where they have gone ahead with this, where they've realized that individuals cannot afford, the state must absorb the cost. We don't have that fiscal space. And there's no country that ever developed with this agenda. At the development stage, this is anti-growth. So the reality on the ground is that it should not be something that we say is a priority now, because even from the law of it, it's not a fundamental human right. It's a lifestyle. And we can't afford to promote that at this stage of our development, because it's expensive, it's destructive. The workplace requirement to accommodate the community and the requirement and the burden on the state for this will collapse our health sector. So we don't have the fiscal space. We are incapable in any form of it, psychologically and the rest of them, to be able to add this to our menu. It's precisely. And not promoting it, it's not like you are denying somebody any fundamental right. If it's fundamental, it must be traceable to everybody. But this is not. This is not. This is an expensive lifestyle others want to impose on us. Okay, it's a cultural invasion. Values of our society. Look, there's a role culture, societal values play in economic development. You must understand your context and look at what is it that you want to promote. It's as simple as that. It's expensive. It's destructive. Look, LGBTQ in its conclusion is lawlessness. And no country has ever developed with lawlessness.
So if I get you, allowing the practice of homosexual activities in Ghana, obviously, would be kind of a nemesis on our economic development. Is that what it is?
It's expensive. We are not ready. We are not ready. It's not something we should tolerate now.
Right. Now, even before you do your presentation, no, quickly for me, before you do your presentation, what do you make of the general presentation by the earlier speakers who have advanced their argument for and against the bill?
Well, I think that in addition to this and what I've observed broadly, there is a certain general trend that culturally our values are inconsistent with this, and that it's not the way to go. Also based on some kind of a survey by some NGOs and all of that. But I think the bit where people have concerns has to do with the fact that if you are talking about it, the advocacy and the rest of them, there are levels. We teach sex education, but we oppose comprehensive sexuality education. There's a difference. If you are merely disseminating knowledge about something, it's different from when the intention is to promote an elicit response in a certain way. So we can look at that and see how we can fine-tune that in a way that does not undo the general will that this is not the way to go.
See, now, finally for me, before you go, I get this understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, listening to the earlier speakers make the argument about morality. I don't know what's the focus, what's your argument to be anchored on. Would it be about the legal implications and the economic implications as far as this issue is concerned?
I think I'm looking at it more from my profession, more from the economic perspective, and the fact that at this stage of our development, it's not something we can afford to load onto our menu as a country. And there's enough empirical evidence to suggest that it's not the way to go. The morals and all of that, you know, what we call society and what shapes behavior and all of that, you can't isolate morality and what people consider to be moral from all of this. So if you look at our upbringing, if you look at our educational curriculum, we teach religious and moral education. As a society, there are some things we think that is not good. Okay, so teaching it is also to correct it and not to promote it. So broadly, in terms of even our educational prescription, there are some things that we think is immoral, and we don't want to encourage that. We teach that. You can't take that away from the human being and all of that. You can't also take faith away from this discussion, okay, because we are deeply religious.
And that's why they are saying that they're accusing you of imposing your religious beliefs on the ordinary Ghanaian, which is against the Constitution.
Please. What we call fundamental human right and what is allowed and what is not allowed is contest. It's contest. You can try that in Saudi Arabia. You can try that in elsewhere. Try that in China. Try that in Russia and all of that. So what Europe broadly considers to be acceptable, some of them may not be acceptable to us. What we broadly consider to be acceptable, some of them may not be acceptable to them. So there's contest. We are a sovereign nation. So we know what defines us, what is common amongst us, and all of that. And without even actively teaching anyone or engineering behavioral change, people tolerate other religions. People tolerate people of different political orientations and all of that. But check the data about the tolerance, the perception about this and all of that. So I think that if broadly, and you can't take the religion away from that. You can't take the moral aspect away from it. You can't take the economic aspect, the scientific, and all of that. You are looking at all these things, and in what direction do all these things point to? You point to the fact that this is not the way to go.
Professor Bokpin, thank you very much. I know the budget is coming very soon, and Prof will be discussing the budget soon with you now. we'll do that. So MFR, you heard Professor Godfred Buckman there making the argument that, in fact, in a very simple term, Ghana is not ready for this kind of lifestyle. It is a lifestyle. It's not a human right. And so the country is not ready for this lifestyle. He believes that where we've gotten to as a nation, obviously we need to shun the idea of encouraging such a practice in the country. And so these are some of the positions taken by those who have submitted their memos to the committee in favor of the bill currently before the committee and those against the bill. Professor Techomenu, lawyer Kutam Pao, H. Kwesi Prempeh have all advanced the argument against the bill, insisting that if the bill in its current form is passed into law, would violate the fundamental human rights. That has been challenged by quite a number of the proponents of the bills and, of course, those who have also supported the bill. And earlier, as I mentioned, the Church of Pentecost presented about 7 different memos. In fact, from the various wings of the church, so right from the men's ministry, the women's ministry, the youth ministry, and even the children's ministry. Well, that has been questioned by Professor Techomenu, that, I mean, the children put together the memo, or it was written for them by their parents or even the church leaders. Well, we'll continue to monitor activities here and bring to our viewers the latest update. But of course, they should be assured that whatever transpires here with the committee members and the chairman and the ranking of the committee will bring them all the updates. So, MFR, I'll hand it over to you in the studio. If you have any, if you don't have any further question to ask, I'll hand you over to the studio. And when the committee return, which I'm told in just about 10 minutes, we will bring them the live update from the DF Annan Hall here at Parliament.
Just before I let you off, Parker, though, if you can hear me, I saw that the proponents of the bill, for instance, some of the MPs that actually put together this bill, sat through proceedings as well, taking notes, and I saw some George amongst others at the committee hearing. Knowing you, I'm sure you may have interacted with them briefly. What have they been saying? They've been sharing their thoughts with you on what they've heard so far.
Well, so Emma, for the first question I asked was that I was expecting them to be the first to have made the argument or to raise the curtain for today's event. Unfortunately, that did not happen. The response was that the committee did not officially invite them. But however, because they are members of parliament, they decided to sit through, or they sat through the proceedings for the day. So they are waiting for the official communication from the committee, and which we understand today they will get the invitation, and tomorrow they may present or make their argument. But however, they've listened to the argument from both sides, and to some of them it's quite interesting. In fact, one of them that I spoke to said it's laughable. The argument has been very emotional, and they don't want to focus on emotional argument. They are sticking to facts and the things about Ghanaian values and the culture that must be protected as a society. So they will let their real argument or the crust of their argument made known to us tomorrow when they appear before the committee. So they are not shaking. They are confident that they have a very well-written, crafted bill, and they believe that at the end of the day, members of parliament, together with a lot of Ghanaians who are in support of this bill, MPs would see to the passage of the bill into law. There is no ambiguity about that. This has been their view when I spoke to them earlier.
Parker, I'll allow you to also grab lunch quickly, and then when the committee resumes sitting, we'll come back to you here on the Pulse. That's my colleague, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, parliamentary correspondent, sitting through that committee. That's the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. They started the public hearing today. We're told that they're expecting about 104. They've received over 100 memoranda on this for and against the proper human sexual and family values bill. We call it the LGBTQ plus bill. It was referred to them, that committee, by the Speaker, even though there were concerns raised about the processes that the Speaker went through in terms of referring that particular bill to the committee. That notwithstanding, the committee has just started the public hearings today. And already we've been hearing from lawyer Akoto Ampao, we've heard from H. Kwesi Prempeh, we've heard from the Pentecost Church, and we're expecting Professor Professor Godfrey Bokping, amongst others, to also present their proposals for and against that particular bill. But let's see a few excerpts, just in case you missed the submissions earlier.
I wish, on behalf of our group, to express our appreciation of the invitation to present a summary of the key views that we expressed in the memorandum that we submitted to Parliament. We do believe that this is an important part of the lawmaking process, and further, that the issues have not been determined in advance, and that is why we are here to speak to the bill in the hope that significant changes may be made, or if need be, that the whole bill be rejected. Now, Mr. Chair, I would make my submission in the following structure. 1, the constitutional issues implicated by the bill and its provisions. 2, the unfounded premises of and justification for the bill. 3, the absurdity of provisions of the bill and a lack of understanding of the issues that the bill purports to speak to. And finally, my conclusion. Mr. Chair, it is our view that the bill violates Article 1, Clause 1 and 2 of the Constitution, the very first article of the Constitution, now, which upholds the sovereignty of the people of Ghana, in whose name, quote, in whose name and for whose welfare the powers of government are to be exercised in the manner and within the limits laid down in the Constitution. So the powers of government, including legislative powers, are to be exercised only in the manner laid down in the Constitution and within the limits laid down in the Constitution, irrespective of the number of people that may support the piece of legislation. The legislation must meet that first provision, fundamental provision of the Constitution. If it doesn't, by Clause 2 of Article 1, that bill or that legislation is void. It's void. It means it doesn't even exist in law. Now, the combined effect of these two clauses is that the Select Committee and Parliament as a whole has a duty it cannot shirk to ensure that any bill that comes before it, the first thing that it must determine is whether it has been introduced in Parliament in the manner laid down by the Constitution. And if it crosses that hurdle, Parliament and the Select Committee must interrogate and determine whether the bill and its provisions are within the limits, again, laid down in the Constitution. So, if the bill is introduced in a manner that is not laid down in the Constitution, that should be the end of the bill. It should be rejected. This is the force of the Constitution. Again, even if it is introduced in a manner laid down in the Constitution, but it is not, the provisions are not within the limits laid down in the Constitution, it is to that extent void. Our respectful submission here is that the bill has been introduced in Parliament not in the manner laid down in the Constitution. This is because this is a private member's bill. And under Article 108 of the Constitution, 2 and 3, it is the President or his agent who can introduce bills generally in Parliament.
So that was the argument put forward by lawyer Kotoampa. He was not alone on this. We also heard H. Kwesi Prempeh, amongst others, make a similar argument against the bill. Also, the Church of Pentecost were represented, their legal team, as well as the Pentecost Church itself, and we are told that 5 various departments of the church made a submission on that. We can hear them.
I can declare that no weapon fashioned against us shall prevail. Mr. Kotoampa was making allusion to the presence of witches and wizards.
Please. We don't want any direct confrontation.
Yes, please.
So kindly restrict yourself to your presentation. I'll be so grateful if you do that. Thank you, Apostle.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm here to introduce the one who is going to make our presentation. And he's in the person of Apostle.
All in 20 minutes?
Ofori Kurego. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honorable members, I made a mistake of not prompting the first. Honorable members, I made a mistake at the beginning. I did not disclose that it was 20 minutes presentation. In order to cover the rest of the presentation, we are limiting ourselves to 20 minutes per presentation. We use our discretion if the person had not finished and he wants some more time. So please exercise patience. Thank you. So we time you from now.
Right. So Apostle Ofori Kurego will do our presentation on our behalf.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair of this distinguished committee. The Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, the GPCC, is very much aware of the fact that Parliament, as the representatives of the people, is at all material times expected to mirror the broad opinions of its constituents, and where appropriate serve as a vehicle to satisfy the interests of the people whose mandate they represent, especially through the vehicle of legislation. The promotion of the proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill 2021 is seen as very critical to the work of this 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic. We are of the firm belief that the passing of this bill into law, which we expect will come on, will give eloquent expression to the sovereign will of majority of the people who Parliament represents. We also see it as a very bold attempt to win this dear nation of ours from the dangerous notion that anything foreign is doing good for us. This nation has been inundated with all forms of foreign values, and we see this bill as a very bold attempt to dissociate Ghana from such a menace. Because we see the bill as trying to customize our distinct values as a people by creating a situation that will preserve the sanctity of our time-honored values as a nation, which is free from foreign corruption and spoil position. We also see that the bill also seeks to protect the pristine Ghanaian norms and value systems and prevent the use of modern technology, as the case might be, to mud the waters. We see that the bill is a proactive step to give impetus to certain aspects of our criminal jurisprudence and deny it the technological oxygen to fuel the flames of a possible wildfire that might obliterate the foundations of our cherished norms and values, which makes us Ghanaians. We will try, for purpose of time, to, as it were, consolidate our presentation into about 3 main points. And the first issue is the fact that we see that the bill is a bold attempt to consolidate the constitutional and legislative framework of this dear nation. The Criminal Offences Act of 1962, Act 29, has done very well. It's served this nation so well over the past, number of years. Under that act, we see that unnatural carnal knowledge, we see section 104, which criminalizes unnatural carnal knowledge, which is defined as sexual intercourse with a person in a natural manner. This is to address the peculiar challenges which face society in those days. But we should understand that it's a different generation with a different cup of tea. Things have changed so much. And because of that, naturally, there have come certain lacuna in Act 29, which I believe, or we believe that this bill can very well address. Honorable Chair, you will realize that this LGBTQI is more or less like a hamper with assorted items in it. It is subject to fast mutations of what is deemed as unnatural carnal knowledge. And I believe this has spawned this fraternity. Honorable Chair, realize that this LGBTQI is very expansive and scholastic. You wake up the next day and one alphabet has been added, and you are left wondering which other alphabet. I don't know, probably we end at Z, and we need to consult and create more. But remember that scholastic limits, and we have been faced with the introduction of new species of unnaturalness in our relationship with each passing day. And the bill is seen as an attempt to position itself to deal with these unpredictable mutations over the long haul.
So that was the argument by the Church of Pentecost also when they appeared before the committee earlier today. So the committee currently is on a brief recess to resume to hear more. We're told Professor Deferred Admission is next in line. He's a renowned economist, and we've heard him interact with my colleague, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, on the arguments that he's going to be making. He says he's going to make an economic argument against the passage or for the passage of a proper human sexual rights and family values bill. We'll take a quick break here on the Pulse. When we return, we'll touch on some other stories. Welcome back to the polls, and we head to the Volta region now. It's the 5th day since that devastation, and residents of Fuvume in the Volta region are now resorting to palm fronds and thatch to build their houses to avoid the heavy losses they suffer each time tidal waves strike. They explain that it doesn't make economic sense to invest in permanent structures only for them to be destroyed. Fuvume, we know, is one of the several communities devastated during that recent rush of the seas onto lands along the coast in the Volta region. Maxwell Agbagba has been our man on the ground. He reports.
It is still high tide at Fuvume. The tidal waves that hit this community left in its trail uprooted coconut trees, collapsed residential structures and school buildings. 60-year-old Knowledge Diwanu giving instructions to a carpenter who is removing the roofing sheets of what he now describes as his former building. He says he was in his room when the disaster struck. Like him, many residents have lost hope that the situation will get better. He says many of them are now resorting to palm branches and thatch for their buildings as they fear any other expensive material used will be a wasted investment.
I can say that I was born in 1974 in my house. This is my house. From here to the seashore is about 1,500 meters when I was very young. Yeah, 1,500 meters from the sea when I was very young. But up to this time, you can now see the sea from here is about 30 meters. So the sea is gradually coming, getting nearer to us. Since I was in 1980s to 1990s, the sea is coming gradually. We are shifting from concrete to coconut branches because of the sea waves. Because if you build the house, the sea destroys. Nobody do anything for us. In 1998, the sea destroyed the Fuvume land. It destroyed some part of the Fuvume land. Therefore, people relocated somewhere in part of the Fuvume again. But in 2016, the sea has destroyed the Fuvume again and destroyed the property of the government, that is the building of the school building. The school has been destroyed by the tidal waves in 2016. So they relocated and built another school at a new place called Agokaji. It's also a suburb of Fuvume. Agokaji is a suburb of Fuvume. So the engineers, they all come and make assess and they do the assessment that the school can be relocated there so that the sea will not destroy it. And by that time, the place where the school was relocated was about 1,000 meters from the sea. But now you can see it is about 25 to 30 meters from the sea, and the sea has destroyed the school too, and destroyed the property of the people, the houses and everything, the poultry, which people keep for their food. The sea has destroyed and destroyed our properties, our houses too. And now, as I'm talking now, some of us, we don't have no place to sleep, and we don't have no food to eat too, because if the sea rough, we cannot go to fishing. So, and because of we don't get any place to sleep, we don't get any place to stay, going to work is a problem for us. So this thing is happening for a long time when we were very young, but no solution is coming for us, or nobody is helping us. So we are appealing for the government of Ghana today, the President, the Excellency of the Republic of Ghana, the Minister for Works and Housing, who is responsible for sea defense, should come to the village, the Fuvume, should come and see what is happening here. This thing happening here is very serious than any disaster happening in our coastal area here. The sea has destroyed it, and we remove the slate and put it somewhere, because we don't get any place to make another structure again. So we are just in the we are stranded. We don't have no place to stay. So even if rain is falling, it falls on us, because we don't have no place to stay. Because for me to go to my brothers and sisters, they too, they don't have any place to stay. There is water in the houses of the people. So people are suffering a lot. So we are appealing for the government of Ghana to come and do groin or sea defense for us. This is happening for a long time. We are very young, but nobody is pleading us. I don't know what I'll say. So we are suffering. We are also human beings like the other people in Ghana. And we are also Ghanaian. We also vote for the party. As I'm talking now, I am a electoral area coordinator of MPP in Achiteti here. As I'm talking now, I don't have no place to sleep. It's a problem.
So wait, you now don't have a place to sleep or what?
I don't have no place to sleep.
Really?
This is my house. I don't have no place to sleep. I and my wife and my children, we don't have no place to stay. Now, I was in the room where the sea entered the room. Then I called my wife. She should get out with my children. My mother too is an old woman, so she cannot walk. And my in-law too is also an old man. He cannot also walk. So I have to take them. I have to go and call some people so that we take them from the water. I put them at a certain place where the water is not coming too much at that place. So they are also in the water, but the water is not coming at that place too much. That is the problem we are having now. A lot of the people in the village, all of us, even the Achiteti too, which people are saying that the school children should go there, that place too is not safe.
Unless they can't make something here.
Moses Akoli is the community leader of Fuveme. He says they have given up on using expensive materials for their buildings because they always end up in the ocean.
Formerly, the community is far from here. It's far from here. But through the sea, the tidal of the sea, that is why we came here. So formerly, the town is not here. Fuveme community is not here. But through the tidal waves of the sea, that is why we came here. Formerly, we used blocks to build our houses, but at now we are using the coconut branches to build our house because we can't use the block to build our house again because the sea is taking the houses and then the block away. Sunday, the sea is very, very rough, and the land is flooded with water. So for that, we can't stay in the water, so we relocate ourselves from this place to the other place. Now we need help from the government, but because we have no amicable solution to solve this erosion problem. So we need the government to come and help us do some work for us so that it can protect the land for us.
Part of the Agokeji and Fuveme communities are already under the ocean. And these buildings are daily reminders to residents about the impact of climate change. Many of them know that in 5 years' time, their villages will be no more. They'll be completely submerged. Some of them have already started removing the roofing sheets of their buildings. They say that their buildings cannot withstand the anger of these tidal waves.
So from our change of subject,
I'm now at the Fuveme Basic School where final year students are preparing for their final examinations next week. According to teachers, over 200 students now study in 2 classrooms after tidal waves destroyed portions of the school on Sunday. Francis Nomanyo is a teacher at the Fuveme Basic School. He says the situation is affecting academic work.
Okay, this class used to be the JHS3 class. Once we have this class, the first one, JHS3. Once we have the JHS 1 and 2 there. Okay. And this used to be our staff, where we sit as teachers. Yeah, this class, yeah. This is where we sit, the staff common room for the teachers. And then this is class 6. So, you see, as you can see, we don't have enough classroom earlier. So we combine class 6 and then class 5 in this class. Okay. Yeah, and over here we have class 3 and 4 here, and you have class 1 there, class 1 and 2 there, and then KG 1 and KG 2 there. Okay. That is how we used to live in the school.
That has been destroyed?
Yeah, it has been destroyed. Yeah, I was posted to Fuveme around September 2014 from college. So basically Fuveme is around very close to Bokbobo. That is where we used to call Puvema. So I was posted there. So the first day I was going there, it was so hectic. I have to walk from Ashteti to Puvema, very far. And when I got to the school, we have some beautiful structures, and then we have from KG1 to class 6, and also another classroom that is from JHS1 to JHS3. We also have the teacher's bungalow and then the headmaster's office. These are all the facilities we have at the school then. So it was so refreshing, a fresh teacher from college posted to such an environment. It came to a time, and then people came and they were talking of relocating the school to this new place, this place where we are currently. Then this place was, we say, a safe haven, and they were thinking of relocating the school to here. And then we were also saying that no, there's a need for us to have a permanent solution to this problem, and that is the sea defense. But then they said, oh, they have to relocate the school to this place, and this is where we are now. And as you can see, the sea has taken over this place too. So, in a nutshell, the permanent solution for this problem is the sea defense. Currently, we have 2 classrooms, as you can see. This building is used to be 6 classrooms, but the 4 of them has been destroyed by the sea. Now we have only two classrooms. And then from KG1 to JHS2 are occupying 1 classroom, and the Form 3s are in 1 classroom too. That is what we are doing now.
Well, the Director of Communications at the President, Eugene Ahin, says government is working on the relocation and provision of alternative livelihood high on the agenda for government as they explore ways to permanently deal with the threat of tidal waves in part of the Volta region.
With respect to what's happening in Ketu South, exactly, municipality. Yes, the President has been apprised of this matter. I believe the Minister for Housing, Works and Housing has also made a comment on it, and he's indicated that currently government is in the process of finding the funds to complete phase 2 of this project. You recall that phase 1 of this project was completed in 2019, and I think sometime in April this year, feasibility studies for phase 2 of the project was completed. And as I said, God willing, very soon government should be able to find the funds to be able to do this. But once that happens, the Minister for Works and Housing would definitely apprise the country of whatever is supposed to take place with regards to that.
So that's the Communications Director at the Presidency, Eugene Ahin. Let's bring in the Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha. We're grateful for your time here on the Pulse. So we're told that in the interim, we're working on relocation for these residents. Do we know when that is going to start?
Thank you very much. I've had briefings from the 2 municipal chief executives, Ketu South and Keta today. I've had briefings from the Angogan DC, and there is a great improvement in the situation at the southern part of the Volta region. They're doing all their best to make sure everybody is taken care of. We still need some relief items which are being mobilized. As I speak to you, a lot is being mobilized to send to our people. There have been good responses from the corporate bodies as well. And we have citizens from the region who are also mobilizing to bring items. So from tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to receive a lot of relief items, cooling mattresses, tents, and so on, to give temporary shelter to the people. And there is also a movement to raise funds to also start reconstructions of school buildings and so on and so forth. So this is just in addition to whatever plans government may be doing in the medium to long term. But immediately we're trying to make life comfortable for the people. And I think that as of now, the situation is very much under control.
But the concern, at least from those who have been to the place and the reports that they're getting, out of the 15 communities, for instance, that NATMO was supposed to provide for, it appears it was woefully inadequate. At the last check, it appears there's only 2 communities that have been catered for by NATMO.
I'm not too sure about that accurate that information is, but I know that the first night not many communities were reached. But I know yesterday a lot more communities were reached, according to reports available to me. We are dealing with
how many communities were you told have been reached?
I spoke to 3 municipal district chief executives, and I have some details, but I can't for sure tell you the number of communities in Ketu South, number in Keta, number in, but I can always check and get back to you.
But it appears that all the residents, those who were supposed to be provided for, in our interaction with them, it doesn't look like nothing much has happened. All hope more like is lost for them. Do you think that NADMO has this situation under control?
So I think that the point must be made that this is not all about NADMO. We have local authorities that are responsible for the welfare of the people. Mm-hmm. We have the centralized system of government. We have all the assemblies. There's so the assemblies under the leadership of the municipal chief executive. And the DC are doing their best. You know, what happens is that people always want more. I mean, some may not have received anything, which I'll concede. I can't say that everybody out of the 4,000 people that were displaced has been taken care of. But it is work in progress. We still mobilize. And luckily for us, they all come from the environment, the communities there. And you know our community system of supporting each other. They are living with families, they are living with friends. While the assembly is making provision to keep them in some classrooms. I know of a school that has got its walls collapsed. Mm-hmm. And the DC has arranged another school for them to have classes. So there's a lot of local intervention, which is, to me, is important because local solution to local problems. While national and region support the local authorities are the first line of responsibility. They have the first line of responsibility and they are doing their best. And I think that what we can do is to only continue to support them to meet the needs of our people.
But is this a situation you would say, you represent government at that level, is this a situation you would say that government is taking seriously?
I believe so. I believe that because the calls are received from the colleague members of government and the efforts that are being made to address the concerns of the people makes me to believe that the welfare of the people affected by these other ways is at the heart of this government. And we'll do everything possible within our power to make sure the situation returns to normalcy as soon as possible.
Because they ask if this government is taking this situation seriously because we are yet to see any high-powered delegation actually visiting the area and commiserating with the community members, apart from the MPs, 1 or 2 that we've seen who have been to the ground themselves.
Yeah, what I would say is that when there was this incident of Sada Week, we had reports, mm-hmm. and we sent people to the ground to make the assessment. And once we had the assessment, we had to mobilize. And some of us were in Accra mobilized. It was on my way from Accra yesterday that I quickly dashed to 1 or 2 places to see what was going on. And I know that there's an effort being made to make sure that at least after the items are sent to our people, the government also is seeing commiserating with them. But the important thing is that we should mobilize relief items to make life more bearable to the victims. But as for the other aspects of showing your face, people seeing you on camera that you are visiting, that one without the relief items will not be appreciated by the people. I think the people are more interested in interventions to make life bearable for them rather than just coming to show yourself and moving away. People are in need, so we need to meet their needs. And it's a responsibility to mobilize so that their needs are met, so that it will not be fine to go there, be with them while they are in need and leave them without food, leave them without shelter. So I think that the priority is to provide them what they need, and then we can do the other things later.
So from our last check, the figures that at least you gave us, it was close to 4,000 residents that were displaced, 200 to 400 homes destroyed in the process. How many of these residents would you say have been reached for their needs to be provided out of this close to 4,000 residents?
I will not be able to, unfortunately, I will not be able to put a figure to it, but I know that the NADMO, the regional director, I think regional director of NADMO was with me a while ago, and we were on the line with officials in Accra, corporate bodies who have informed us of how they are mobilizing to come and support. Some people are even raising a fund to try and provide a shelter for the people, and we were very happy that people are getting concerned, are very much concerned about the welfare of the victims. We will continue to do our best, and we know that with time we shall get there.
But it appears this has been left to the private sector, corporate bodies and indigents, or those who come from the area to mobilize and do this. Is that not accurate?
No, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right, because with the Coastal Development Authority, the Coastal Development Authority is doing a lot of mobilization. They have even informed me that they are organizing a medical team to go and examine the victims and provide them medical care. So a lot of, it's a multifaceted approach to handling this issue, and we are collaborating with any organization. Any organization. We must all support government. Government will do its bit, but the other organizations, the churches, the NGOs must also come and support us. As they say, that we always, Oliver Twist, we are always asking for more. So whatever we will get from anybody is very much welcome.
So from where you stand, you say that all 15 communities at least have been reached some way, somehow, by relief items.
I have to, you know, as I told you earlier, we have a number of communities in Ketu South that are being taken care of by the Ketu South Municipal Chief Executive. We have a number of communities in Keta that are being taken care of by Keta Municipal Chief Executive. We have some in Angologan, and these three officers are representing government on the ground, and they are mobilizing resources at the local level to support whatever is coming from region and national. So the importance of local governance is vital when it comes to finding solutions to local problems. And I'm sure that from the report I received from my three government representatives in the assembly, they are very much on top of the issues. They've had a regional security council meeting to discuss the security implications of whatever is going on. And they are constantly giving me feedback. So I am confident that the situation is under control. But I'll still appeal that we need more relief items to meet the needs of the people.
Okay. Dr. Atibot Lesha, we are grateful for your time. That's the Volta Regional Minister. And in the last few minutes also, we've been hearing from the Volta Development Fund. They've also issued a statement regarding this particular situation that has hit the people of the 15 communities on the coastal line in the Volta region. They are hoping that something will be done about the situation. We've been hearing from the Volta Development Forum. So the statement they've issued, it says the Volta Development Forum is deeply saddened by the devastation and the displacement suffered by inhabitants in some communities in the Ketu South municipality. So Anglor District and Keta municipality as a result of the ferocious tidal waves in recent times. In fact, the loss of properties amounting to several thousands of Ghana cedis and the collective sufferings of the people is heartbreaking. While empathizing with the victims, VDF is calling on government, the general public, especially citizens of the Volta region, to, as a matter of urgency, come on board to support the demoralized victims and with funds and relief items. So the VDF also recommends that government takes immediate steps or immediate action in finding immediate short-term, medium-term and long-term solutions to the problem. So that's the statement from the Volta Development Forum. We know that some indigents have also put together a fund, for instance, for people to donate, and it's on our social media platforms. You can also be part of it. We know that Kena Shibe, amongst others, together with the former MP for Keta, Mr. Kwashiga, amongst others, have put together a fund for you to be able to donate, and they are sure of transparency, auditing and transparency of what you put in to be giving to these 4,000 residents that are currently in distress in these 15 communities. I'll take you now to the Glasgow for COP26, and we cross over now to that ongoing UN climate change conference. And my colleague Seth Kwame Boateng joins us via Zoom with an update. I know that he's been interacting with the Second Lady Samira Baumia on clean cooking and how we can make it work to protect the lives of women. Indeed, a great submission there earlier in that interaction with my colleague Seth Kwame Boateng. But Seth is on standby now. Seth, if you can hear me, what have we been up to today?
Well, thank you, Emefa. So the conference is wrapping up. So today, bilateral meetings are happening among all the parties. But I am privileged to have had access to a copy of some proposals that the president of COP have put forward. And let me quickly take you through the adaptation one. And it says, and this concerns financing. You know, our president has been heavy on this in his speech in Scotland. It says that notes with serious concern that the current provision of climate finance for adaptation is insufficient to respond to worsening climate change impacting developing countries, parties. It goes on further to say it urges developed countries to urgently scale up their provision of climate finance for adaptation so as to respond to the needs of developing country parties, and also calls upon the private sector, multilateral development banks and other financial institutions to enhance finance mobilization in order to deliver the scale of resources needed to achieve climate plans, particularly for adaptation, and encourages parties to continue to explore innovative approaches and instruments for mobilizing finance for adaptation from private sources. So it's heavy on the financing, and I think African leaders must be happy that their concerns, the concerns they put forward, have been considered by the president of COP, for which reason the final resolution, a draft copy I have, is suggesting that developing countries must be taken care of by the developed countries, those who are emitting over 76%, and Africa is doing little under 3%. But we are suffering. We are being the hardest hit when it comes to climate change effect.
My colleague Seth Kwame Boateng. But you know, you had an earlier interaction with the Second Lady Samira Baumia on clean cooking. What exactly is she hoping that can be done?
So she provided some statistics suggesting that 1.1% of people who die through air pollution are coming from Africa, and it is clear that most women are affected. And she linked that to how in rural areas wood to prepare to cook. You know, they put together firewood and they sit by it and inhale the smoke, air pollution. And he's saying that the powers that be are proposing clean cooking solution, but that mechanism or technology is very expensive, and not all the ordinary African may not be able to afford. So what she is pushing for is a good idea, but how can we get you to make this affordable so that everybody can have access to it, so that the mortalities we are recording in Africa, killing most women or a number of women, will come down. So that's what she has been pushing for in all the meetings that she has been speaking.
Okay. Seth Kwame Boateng, thank you so much for joining us from Glasgow. And that UN Climate Change Conference is just wrapping up there. And we hope to see you soon here in Ghana, Seth. Now, let's turn our attention to this raging controversy. It doesn't look like we'll go away anytime soon. So I'm talking about the law school, law entrance exams, and the 499 students. Even even though they are in court to compel the GLC to admit them. Their colleagues have just been admitted to school. They started the term, and they're hoping that they will join their colleagues soon. And the Attorney General has a directive on this after that petition, and then there was a reference to him from the presidency. So far, he's issued a letter. We know there's a communication to that effect. 3 options that have been provided by the Attorney General for something to be done about the situation. So the first option is for the 499 students to be granted deferred admission so they start school in May 2022. He wants measures in place so they can sit for the bar exams and be called at the same time as their colleagues who wrote the 2021 law school entrance exam. So the second option is for the General Legal Counsel to admit them immediately as they join their colleagues who have already started receiving instructions for the professional law course at the Ghana School of Law as we speak. And the very third option is the GLC organizes exams in November 2021 to afford the 499 candidates an opportunity to justify their admission, and it should be an essay question allowing them to reason and address legal systems. Let's bring in Asare Hassan. He's president of the National Association of Law Students. We're grateful for your time here on The Pulse. Is this welcome news for you? You'd have to unmute, Hassan. Please unmute. Thank you. Hassan, I'm unable to hear you, Hassan. You would have to do something about your sound there for me so we can hear you. It'll be very interesting to have this conversation with you. Have you unmuted, Hassan? Can you hear me now, Hassan? Okay, so that we'll work the lines again and then reach Hassan, sorry, there on this. He's the president of the National Association of Law Students, and this is the directive that the Attorney General has put out. He himself, a member of the Legal Council, and this is what he's hoping that will be done to resolve the current situation with the 499 students. So the third option has generated a lot of talk amongst the students themselves. They have to rewrite the exams. They have to organize a special exams for them this month. That's November 2021, to afford them an opportunity to be an essay question. And interesting that we want to hear from the student. Hassan, do we have a better connection now?
Okay.
Super. I can hear you now, Hassan. So I was asking if this is welcome news. The 3 options that have been given to the GLC for you. Which one excites you?
Actually, I have to say, just reading that is quite exciting. Option 1 is okay. Option 2, in my opinion, is perfect. Option 3 is a contending one. It's one of a controversy, if you ask me. Now, the letter directed to GLC is asking it to look at the issues, which is good. So we are happy that at least we are being considered in one way or the other to be admitted. However, for the first and second, it's okay. But the first and second actually speaks to the fact that the students should be admitted, which is to say they have settled or passed the exams. So where comes in option 3, that we should sit for another exam to determine whether we can actually go to school? I mean, it's actually, in my opinion, it doesn't solve the purpose. And one thing we are asking is, if we pass, we need to go to school. So if option 1 and 2 say you can go to school, and third one say you need to justify your inclusion, and that is quite problematic. So GLC has not really taken a position as to which one is going to opt for, and we are looking forward to it, to speak to us within the shortest possible time. But option 3 would be one of the contention as it stands.
Well, what is the fear? Because is it the case that when you are exposed to option 3, for instance, it will be difficult for you to sail through smoothly? Because the argument is that he can't just give all those options. He has to open it up also to the GLC to agree on which option works best for the system.
Now, looking at option 3, the problem with option 3 that most people don't get is it's a lot of work.
Oh no, I've just lost Hassan there. Unfortunately, would get Hassan shortly, and so that we can hear the thoughts of the students on these options that have been provided by the Attorney General to the GLC. Super. We have you back, Hassan. So you were talking about how difficult option 3 will be.
Okay, so aside the fact that we have passed the exam, let's assume we are staying with option 3. It comes with a lot of work. Some people actually would have to take leave to study to write exams. Some people travel long distances to write an exam. Some people are not so smart like others. They will need a lot of time to actually study, to actually get enough information to do what is expected of us. Now, if you say there has to be an exam, I'm sure some people may not be even in the right frame of mind right now, looking at the stress we've gone through over time. So I don't think, looking at the time, they said November. November has just about, if I'm not wrong, 3 weeks. How are they going to organize this one? How are we going to even meet it? So for me, I don't think it should be an option in the first place, because as per the writings that I read, the problem has to do with the process of admission, which lacks integrity and transparency. Now, it has nothing to do with the qualification of the students. That did not come out in the discussion. So it's a bit baffling and of concern that suddenly we have to write an exam. I don't think it should actually come in the conversation. But as I said, the GLC has not said that is what it's going to look at, but it would not be very welcoming, as I said.
You're hopeful that the GLC will not take that option?
It's in my opinion, and for personal reasons, and for this is coming from me as the president of the National Association of Law Students, it will be in bad taste. I don't think it's an option that they should look at.
Okay, well, we'll leave it here. Hassan, thank you very much for joining us. That's the president of the National Law Students, and we're hoping that we'll hear from the GLC on which option it settles on. The students are hopeful that option 3 would be written off. They are hoping that that is not the option they settle for. Either 1 or 2, they say it's okay. But let's talk about your food. A lot of you, or those pig lovers amongst us, more than 2,000 pigs have died after contracting what veterinary officers say is African swine fever. The incident, which occurred within a 3-week period, has affected more than 50 farmers in the pig farm cluster in the Adjusco municipality of the Ashanti region. Prince Apia has more in this report.
That was 2 months ago, and this place had so much life. Today, seated under this tree are frustrated and confused swine farmers. This has become their routine. They come here to chat among themselves and deliberate on ways to get back to business.
Ordinarily, in every pig farm, you are greeted by loud oinks from the pigs. But this cannot be said for this particular farm, because more than 1,000 of the pigs here have died from the African swine fever. So today, it is dead silence.
Pig farmer George J counts his losses as he takes me round the farm. 2 weeks ago, he noticed changes in his pigs to a strange disease which will later be identified as the African swine fever. For 7 years, this is the first time he is experiencing this.
Those pens that are affected, you see 1 or 2 of these pigs, they are not active, they won't try to eat, but normally that's we do. Commonly, we will try to touch them and feel their body temperature. But in fact, honestly speaking, throughout my experience, 7 years, I've never felt this kind of temperature before. Extremely hot. Then the animal will be breathing in a strange manner that calls for immediate attention. Some of them too, you see the color, the body color changed. Some change light brownish, some yellowish color. And then 1 or 2 we've observed, some sort of blood will be oozing from the ear and then the eyes.
Mr. J is part of the Adjusco cluster of over 50 pig farmers who are the worst hit by the disease. He has lost more than 35,000 cedis from the current situation.
We have, myself alone, I have approximately 30 pens. On the average, if you are considering the number of farmers and pens available here from this end to that end, we are looking at not less than 3,000 pigs produced annually. And then we normally start to sell them to the markets when they are 50 kilos and above. So if we are taking the lowest kilo margin, that is 50 kilos, and multiplying that by 3,000, it means we are producing approximately 150,000 kilos of pork, that's pig meat, and that's equivalent to 150 tons of meat. Some people have lost tons of money. I've lost not less than 35,000 Ghana cedi. So if after this, and most of our colleagues, they've lost interest. In fact, it's disastrous.
Veterinary officers at the Jeso Public Health Directorate have been assessing the situation. To avoid such disease outbreaks in the future, the farmers are advised to observe proper biosecurity practices. Higa Oforiwa is the Chief Technical Officer for Public Health in charge of disease control.
What we are entreating them is to do the cleaning and disinfection for some time so that they leave their farm bare for some months. After that, we will let them bring in new animals to try and rear them to see if the disease is totally eradicated.
Meanwhile, the farmers have begun putting in measures to get them back to business, but yet to get clearance from the health officials.
Na ombe my spray ni ade ade ha na yale no efiri hakra nsa na ya start adwuma ne foforo na nso so se na musi ka kire se Ghana ban eniska nti so mbe kunkumwa ne nyina akra na nyade a ebia compensation bi ebefiri ba bi aba nti no ya de asat now de ya ankasa empedro ni ade ne spray ha
so obi be free outside de na boa ba ha so obi kum de ya twam ana tan so ha obi wo kra winnimu no na wa ba o say wan wi sem wo ha no oba be hwe wo mo enu say ye sizi fi say ye nim ba bia ofiri a oye de oba.
Madam Oforiwa says it will take close to 6 months for them to start working on this space again.
So what is happening here is that most of the farmers are waiting for their pigs to die from the African swine fever because most of them have been affected by the disease. Then they bury them. This has become a major cause of worry for most of the farmers who now would have to wait for 6 months before they can bounce back to their business. My name is Prince Apia, reporting from Ejiso.
That's the situation as Prince Apia has been reporting. We'll take a quick break here on The Pulse. We have sports when we return. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of The Pulse here on the JoyNews channel, your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Another exciting edition will come your way same time tomorrow. Please log on to myjoyonline.com. There's more news there from entertainment, business, all you need to know right there on myjoyonline.com, and continue to follow us on all our social media platforms. I am Emefa Apau, and many thanks for your company. Have a good evening and enjoy the rest of our programs.